Hola, hola, hola. ¿Cómo estás todos? ¿Cómo estás? And Nadia. Hello, everybody and nobody. It's January 15th. Today, for us, it was payroll day. Doled out some big checks to the employees today. Always a fun time. And today's Wednesday. So if I remember back in the day when I used to work for the man, this would be the day that people would get their direct deposit. Although I never opted for direct deposit because I wanted my cash. I wanted to see my check in my hand. I wanted it there in my hand, take it to the bank. Actually, that brings up an interesting story. I went to the bank one time in Beverly Hills, which is where I cash my check most of the time. And in standing in line in front of me was Robert Singleton. I can't remember his name. John Singleton. John Singleton was the director of Boys in the Hood, which was a phenomenal movie. If you haven't seen Boys in the Hood, you should go check it out. It was sometime in the 90s, I think it was made. Maybe even, I don't think it was the 80s. I think it was the early 90s. But great movie. I think it was his first movie. And if not, maybe he did some small movies before that, but definitely was his first big movie. But it was the first time, well, I shouldn't say that. Anyway, John Singleton was very famous at the time because Boys in the Hood had already come out, and he had done some other things like I think he had done the Michael Jackson video, which was a cool video. I think it was Remember the Time. I think was the name of the video. Eddie Murphy was in it. I think the supermodel, I can't remember. Was it Iman? Anyway, standing in line in Beverly Hills at the Bank of America, the wonderful Bank of America, the Bank of America that will nickel and dime you to death. But anyway, sorry, Bank of America, but you know it's true. And John Singleton goes to the teller, and he has a check in his hand. And next thing you know, I hear his voice start to escalate, and it gets a little bit louder and a little bit louder, and he's like, "Why can't I cash my check? I have my ID, I have my check. What's the problem? I don't care how much the check is." I think it was for like $50,000 or $10,000. I don't remember something. Actually, no, I think it was bigger than 50,000. I mean, I think it was around 50 grand. So they gave the man a hard time. The man just wanted to cash his hard-earned check, his hard-earned money from some particular studio, and they wouldn't let the man cash the check at the Bank of America in Beverly Hills in the early 90s, or maybe it was the mid-90s. So I had some trouble at the Bank of America too, cashing a check myself for. It was not $50,000. It wasn't. It was a pretty significant amount, but it wasn't 50 grand. But yeah, difficult times back in the day. Haven't had any trouble lately though, FYI. So maybe they've changed their policies. But anyway, it's January 15th, as I said. It's payroll day for some people. Some people got some hard-earned cash in their bank account today to go out and buy groceries and maybe buy some shoes, some makeup, get your hair done, eyebrows. But 15th is a big day for a lot of people. It's also a big day for America and a big day for Russia. Guess what happened in Russia today? I'll tell you right after we talk about what happened. This will be quick. The impeachment is going to happen. It's going to trial in the Senate. So here we go. Got some pretty big moves happening in the government. People are refusing witnesses and refusing to let this all play out properly. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully it's over soon because I think it's definitely creating a divide and a distraction in the company. People should be out having fun. Putin decided to take matters in his own hands. If you haven't read this, Putin today decided to, well, this is what happened. His prime minister resigned, and he he has made some changes to their constitution that allows him. I guess this is something he's done before to keep himself in power because he's up for election in 2024. I think that's when his term ends. And he's made changes to the Constitution that will allow him to take on another position of power in the government that will have or will be given essentially the number one power position in the government. So he's deciding to be essentially, well, I mean, everybody knows he's a dictator, and all the government, the people in government now have quit in his current government. So can you imagine? He's like, Mr. Prime Minister, I think you should quit today. And the Prime Minister's like, but why? He's like, do you want to see your family tomorrow? So I don't even know why you would want to be in the government with in Russia, or even if you wanted to be in Russia. If you want to, I do have a little bit of understanding of how things operate in Russia, as I have some friends from there, and had some great experiences with some people that were directly out of Russia who fled Russia because of persecution, and I really got to know them um, here when they didn't speak English very well, and then when they learned how to speak English, pretty cool, and actually great people, lots of very talented and intelligent people. Most of them could play some particular instrument. A lot of them were trained in classical music and poetry and language and fine arts. So great people. I feel bad for them because the people that I've met from Russia have all been family oriented and sweet and just interested in carrying on a great life. And unfortunately, they're having to deal with essentially a dictator that's in power. And sounds like what I've read recently is that they're having trouble with their economy too. And some people say actually Putin is the richest man in the world because he's taken control of essentially all of the resources in Russia and put them under government control and probably decreeing that they belong to him as well. So tough position, tough place to be in, and hopefully they figure it out, and hopefully we don't have to deal with any kind of issues or political issues with them in the future. But can you imagine if that happened here? If all of a sudden uh, Trump decides that he wants to stick around for the rest of his life? Putin, I think, is 67. So, and I know Trump is older than that, but imagine he decides, you know what, I don't want to. I'm gonna change the Constitution and decide that the mayor. I'm going to be the mayor of New York, but the mayor of New York is now the highest position of power in the country. I mean, that's kind of a silly example, but you know what I mean. Be weird. It'd be chaos, but yet it still goes on. Another thing happening is O.J. Simpson is suing the Cosmopolitan Hotel in Vegas. uh, I guess he was drunk and he was drinking at a bar. They said he became belligerent or sloppily behaving sloppily and staggering in the hotel. He broke a glass or something at the bar and was being mean and yelling at employees, and so they kicked him out. And so OJ decided to sue the Cosmopolitan, or has decided to sue them for $50,000, 50 grand for, I think it's defamation. They're saying that he's saying that because they kicked him out, it made him look bad. And so they're I don't think they have a countersuit, but their argument is they first of all they want it thrown out of court because they basically said that OJ's reputation cannot get any worse, and there's no way we can harm his reputation. it's he has one of the worst reputations in America because of what he went through in the past. So that should be interesting to see. I would imagine. I mean, what they want to happen is it for it to not go to court and go through some sort of mediation process. So be interesting to see what happens. I'd actually like to know what happens in that process because, I mean, that's sort of like one of those frivolous lawsuits. The stock market again has reached 29,000. So I talked to you guys yesterday, or I mentioned yesterday about a Swiss bank sort of getting into the gambling, getting into the gambling ways of America by offering some funds for to bet on the American election. So we're at 29,000. We should probably put a wager as to whether or not we're going to get to 30,000. I would imagine if we're on our way to a new election, I'm sure that Trump, the marketer slash businessman that he is going to use. I could see. So let's see. We're now in January. So let's say gas prices have started to, well, they had increased. Now they've started to come down a bit. So we'll see this. My prediction is this: you'll start to see gas prices decrease right after summer, because I don't think they can help themselves, at least here in California. They can't help themselves but increase gas prices during the summertime, since so many people are driving and traveling. But I would say gas prices are going to increase or decrease significantly after summer. And so, well, I don't know what the barrel price of a barrel is now. But anyway, let's just say that. So whatever it is now, you want to take a look at it now, and then after summer, it's going to be at least 20% less by the end of summer. Okay. And then the next thing that's going to happen is you're going to start to see over the summer, maybe midway through, you're going to start to see that stock market eke up a bit towards 30,000 points. And I think by the time the election day happens, maybe a month before, 2 weeks before election day, you're going to see that thing hit 30,000. Let's see if they can work that out. That's going to happen. So Dow Jones going to hit 30 grand a month or so before the election. There you go. Prediction. 2020, January 15th. So yesterday I talked about the punishment of the Astros, and I talked about the fact that they cheated. And today an article came out. I think it actually was out yesterday about what punishment they received, and I think I mentioned that yesterday as well. But I thought about it more, and though it is the American way to do what you can to win, I'll say that. What's the old saying? If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Well, I think that was written by an American songwriter. So I think the punishment was not sufficient, because listen, $5 million to these team owners, I mean, that is a drop in the bucket, my friends. That's nothing. They'd take that punishment every year if they could cheat and get a World Series. They'll take that every time. I'm sure. God knows. I know there is a show on television. I can't remember the name of it. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was making $50 million a week. $50 million a week on ads. So you tell me if $5 million is gonna matter to win a World Series. So because definitely a lot more people are watching the World Series. Actually, I don't know that to be true, but because Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was pretty popular during that time. But anyway, here's what I think the punishment should be. I wrote some notes down. First of all, they should launch a deeper investigation. I want to know everybody. I want to know all the people who knew, every single person. I want to know all their names, and I want a list. I want a list of people who knew that this was taking place. A list of coaches, a list of trainers, a list of players, a list of players' girlfriends, a list of doctors. I want everybody's name on a list. And the second thing I want people to know is I want to know, um, I want all the earnings that they had, every earning that they made for that game. So I think the players get some additional money for the World Series. I think that they should lose all of their earnings. I think that the team should lose all the earnings. The coaches should lose all their earnings. I'm sure that the managers get bonuses. Everybody who knew, everybody on that list. I don't care if they took that money and they bought a house in the Bahamas. Want the money back. Second thing is, all the money that the owner made from the World Series championship, all that money needs to come back. All of it. Not $5 million, every single penny of it. And they're going to say, oh, it's impossible. Who knew? We don't know how to figure out what that dollar amount is. Let me tell you something. They know exactly what that dollar amount is. And if they didn't know what it was, we wouldn't have a World Series because there would be no point in it. You think they have a World Series because they care about how good these baseball players are and they just want to show the spectacle to the American people? Absolutely not. It's all about those big green dollars. They're not even green dollars anymore, just digits flowing electronically into the bank accounts of those owners. I don't think this is a harsh punishment. I think it's necessary to prevent people from cheating in the future. If they know that they're going to lose all the money, all the gain that they got from cheating and winning, then they probably won't do it again. And then you know what else they should do? They should give that championship to the Dodgers, and there should be a celebration. And they should make all the players stand on a stage and hand over the trophy and do a celebration for the Dodgers winning the World Series 2017. It should be a whole ceremony paid for by the Houston Astros. That's what should happen. Because at the end of the day, money talks only, and only money talks. That's my thoughts on that today. I got two more things to talk about because I'm going to make this one short. Next one is a sad story. Is Dwayne Johnson's dad died today, 75 years old. He was the first African American wrestler to, let me give you his accolades here. He was the first one to hold African American wrestler to hold the tag team title in the then World Wrestling Federation, so WWF, now WWE. And there are other things that he did, but that's one of the main things that he did. So that's a sad story. I'm sure Dwayne Johnson is not having a great day. I'm sure it's a sad day. So if you follow Dwayne on Instagram and you want to reach out and give him your condolences, you should. Him and his family. Sad day. Okay, I didn't want to end on a sad note, but I do want to end on a crazy note. So here's the movie review. Last night I went to see Uncut Gems. It is a must-see, my friends. A must-see movie. You must see what it's like to live in New York. I can't even do the Jewish accent, New York Jewish accent. I don't know what it sounds like, but anyway, my friends. Adam Sandler did a phenomenal job in this movie. Now, I think the movie itself was, I would say, better than Adam Sandler's performance because of the way it was. It flowed, the way it was cut, and the storyline. This was a movie that there was not one moment in the movie, with the exception of maybe the beginning. The Well, first of all, the intro was little. They could have done a better job, I thought. Um, the beginning of the movie opened with something that I thought was a little egregious, but uh, I mean, I guess they were trying to make you see what the people went through. So I'll just say that the beginning of the movie, um, not bad, but not great. But the movie is worth seeing. It's one of those, let's say, nail biters, or holds you in your seat. You're It's one of the only movies in recent times for me that I actually could feel my pulse increasing. I could feel my heart beating. Like I was actually in at a point where I was concerned, and I was obviously rooting for a particular character. And I don't want to give anything away. I just want to let you know that you should go see it, and it is very intense. It's action packed. The acting is great. I don't think there are any lulls in the movie that I can remember. The every actor's performance, I thought was pretty good. And the I think the girl who played Adam Sandler's girlfriend, this was her debut into the movie business, I think. And so you'll definitely see her again because she did a phenomenal job. And Adam Sandler, though I'm not sure if it was Oscar worthy, and I saw him in an interview with Brad Pitt. And I mean, he's a pretty humble guy. I think I told the story about him. I met him a while ago. Actually, I didn't meet him. We ran into each other in a restaurant. But uh, he is a pretty humble guy, and so deserves to be recognized for this performance. If he didn't win an Oscar, definitely a step down in the Golden Globes. I could see why they didn't give it to him, because you could see it's hard for comedians to mask that place that they go to as comedians. And you could see a glimpse of it on it's kind of like a stone, a diamond with a blemish inside. A couple of blemishes inside. If you look at the diamond, you can see there's something in there. What do they call it? An inclusion. You can see an inclusion inside the stone in his performance, a couple of them. And so, with that, I say it's still worth seeing, as a beautiful diamond is worth seeing even with inclusions. And I give it a if we're gonna, I mean, if we say The Godfather is the Godfathers of all movies, we give The Godfather A+. We have to give Uncut Gems mm, we'd have to give it a B+. Definitely worth seeing. All right. Okay, my friends. All right. Make sure you go out and check on what Putin moves Putin is making, and also make sure you go check out Uncut Gems. Okay. All right, my friends. Adios, or goodbye, or um, dobre udra.